Hi everybody, welcome to Esplanade St. Mary's. My name is Chris Wilczynski. I'm from Michigan. Happy to be here today in the sunny, warm weather of Georgia. A little over 30 years. I started when I was 17 years old in high school. I grew up just north of Toledo, Ohio, and the first half of my career was working for an architect named Arthur Hills, who was based in Toledo, Ohio. And he did work all throughout the United States. And I was 17 years old. Went through college, worked at his office during college, and then worked for him until 2010. And then in 2010, I started my own business, CW Golf Architecture. Yeah, great question. Overall philosophy with regard to golf is there's really two pillars that we focus on primarily: is beauty and interest, making the golf course beautiful and making it interesting. And interest has a lot of different components to it, whether that's strategy with bunkers, green slopes, but our goal is to get a golfer to think about, as they play the golf course, plotting their shots out from A to B to C. And I realize that golfers don't always have the ability to control exactly where the ball goes, but I want them to be thinking about where the ball should be placed based upon the best angle or the best line into the landing area or into the green or whatever that would be. And that's the same thing for putting, short game area, etc. I want to provoke thought in the process so that golfers are constantly thinking about that, but I also want it to be interesting in that, there may be something that looks really challenging and ominous over here that we can play away from, and that's part of the interest, is just engaging the golfer throughout the whole process and making them think about where they execute or where they hit their shots or where they don't hit their shots. Another part of what we also focus on, especially in a community golf course like this, is width. We know that the more width that we have, the more fun the experience is for the golfer, being that you can hit your ball, find your ball, and hit it again. And so we really focus on width. And when we have width, it allows us to set up angles, and that's another, again, pillar of the interest part, is making a golf hole strategic that's set up on angles. Like the hole behind us here, number 8, if you hit close to the right fairway bunker, it gives you the best line into the green. And every hole, like number 9, is the same thing. If you hit close to the left fairway bunkers, it's the ideal angle into the green. And that's the intent when we talk about strategy, is setting up angles, setting up risk reward, allowing every player an option, but really having an option for the better golfer to be tested and trying to challenge that strong angle of the golf hole. Yeah, great question, because that's probably the hardest part of our job, is making a golf course really challenging, stimulating for a really good golfer versus the golfer that's a recreational golfer that is struggling to maybe break 90 or 100, which is a big demographic of the golfing population. Most golfers are in that 90 to 100 range or even more. And so there's a few ways that we do that. One is having the multiple tee system. At this golf course here, for example, at St. Mary's, we have tees that go back to about 7,000 yards all the way down to 3,500 yards at the most forward tee. So if you play the right tee, you should have a fun experience based upon your skill level. So with that being said, is that we have a tee really for every golfer, every type of golfer, to get around the golf course. And then the other part is what I just talked about with the angles. Like for the good golfer, we're trying to set up angles, so the angle may be stronger from the back tee, whereas they have to commit more to that angle, versus the forward tees may be off of that angle where it's more open into the lane area. And then the other part is just a variety of greens, variety of green slopes and sizes. And for the most part, everybody can putt. So we try to focus on around the perimeters of the greens, having lots of areas where people can recover from, meaning that there's short grass that people can chip from or putt from around the perimeter green, versus having thick, deep rough around every green where, again, people can putt around the perimeters of the green and get back onto the green. Yeah, the thing that I think is, to me, that has been the most interesting part of this project or this site is really this band of existing vegetation that wraps the entire property. The other Esplanade projects that we've done were really agriculture fields, and that's what this was, but it was a tree farm. So we have all this existing vegetation that surrounds the entire property. So most of the holes, like for example, if you're playing number 8, there's mature trees behind the green. And then as you go throughout the front 9 holes, 2, 3, 4, 5 all have mature trees. Number 6 is right over here. So it's really that band of this mature vegetation that makes the course feel like it has a sense of place, that it's been here for a long time, fits in with the environment in this area. And so I think that's really a pretty cool part of this golf course. The other part, which is something that besides Esplanade Azario that we never really had, is we have this awesome environmental feature with the with the St. Mary's River and the salt marsh over here. So holes 12 and 13 play right up along the salt marsh. So does hole number 4 on the front 9. And that's pretty unique, not only from a beauty standpoint, because we get to look at it, but the fact that we get to border golf holes with that feature, which is really attractive and really pretty. Hole number 12 and 13 will be absolutely beautiful because of the salt marsh that they sit adjacent to. I have a few that would be my favorites. Again, 12 and 13, I think, because of that. And 12 and 13 are they're not very far along. So for me to fully answer that question, the holes have to evolve, because sometimes on paper there may be a hole that I'm not excited about or as excited about, but once we actually develop it, it becomes much more exciting just because of surprise or something that we didn't anticipate seeing. But I think 12 and 13 are going to be really special. I think number 8 here is going to be a really fun, interesting hole. I think holes 2, 3, and 4 are going to be really beautiful. Hole number 5, which is a short par 4 that's drivable. Number 10 is potentially a drivable par 4, meaning that from the tee you can hit to the green. And it really depends on the wind direction that day, but those holes I think are all going to be really exciting. And then 18 I think is going to be a really strong finishing hole. There's a huge bunker at the inside of the dogleg that you'll have to contend with. The more of that bunker you carry, the shorter your shot will be into the green. But there's, again, like we talked about before, with the angles and the width, we have space to bail out away from that feature. Yeah, probably a few things. When we were riding around today, we were talking about the bunker style and the aesthetic of the bunkers, and we decided to go in a little bit of a different direction with the bunker detailing here. The other Esplanade golf courses that we've done have more of a flat sand floor with a grass face, whereas the bunkers here, if you can look behind us, the bunkers here have more of a sand flash, where the flash of the sand goes up onto the face. And so I think that makes it unique and different than the other Esplanade golf courses. As far as like our personal philosophy or style, I think it goes back to that width, like having the width to play golf. If you were to go over here next door to Osprey Cove, which was developed in the 90s, you're going to see a lot narrower golf corridors, which means playability can get compromised. So having that width is really critical, and it's something that we really strive for in the planning phase, is to have that width of the golf holes, and A, for the enjoyment of the golfer, but B, also for the safety and the enjoyment of the residents in the community, so that houses aren't being hit on a regular basis. And then the last thing that we really focus on, and we go through this in our head all the time, I constantly ruminate about it, is trying to create 18 like really good golf holes, like 18 unique individual holes that where not one hole is the same hole or the same look or the same aesthetic, that every hole is its own challenge, its own puzzle. And I pour through the holes in my mind on a regular basis, trying to make sure that everyone is really, really solid, really different, but a great collection of 18 holes and a great overall experience when we're all done. Because I want golfers to have fun. And again, back to like the better golfer, to me it's easy to make a golf course really hard. There's things that we can do to make it hard, but to make it playable for everybody is really the most challenging part. And I feel like that's what we're really good at in these situations, is making it playable and making it fun.